Hi, I'm Terry. Welcome to Terry's Scroll Shop. Today we're going to talk a little bit in this video about scroll saw blades, scroll saw patterns, and the different types of wood that you might use to cut a scroll saw pattern, what blades you might use for that kind of wood. I want to start off with patterns because people often ask me, where do you get all the patterns that you use for the things you cut out? Well, there are a multitude of sources, but I like to start with a couple of magazines. And first of all, let me tell you, this is an unpaid endorsement. I don't get anything from these magazines for promoting them, but they are excellent scroll saw magazines because they cater to scroll saws. The first one is Creative Woodworks and Crafts. Now, this magazine comes about 4 times a year. It has dozens of useful articles in it with step-by-step instructions on how to cut a project, and it also comes with patterns for all the projects. You can see that on the cover it says there are 35 plus new patterns in this magazine. That's all in one magazine, and that comes about 4 times a year. So you can see you get a lot of patterns every year from that magazine. This next magazine is very similar to that. It's Scroll Saw Woodworking and Crafts, and this magazine also is very excellent, caters exclusively to scroll saws, and has tons of articles and tips and instructions on how to cut projects. Also, it has articles on how to choose a scroll saw. This is an article about a young lady who made a business out of her scroll sawing. And you see here is a project for a box. And let me just flip over to a project that I've got marked here. This one is a little balloon toy that you can make for a kid. See, it's a pull toy, and it's got a little balloon here and a basket and a kid in the basket. And if you look here, here's the pattern for it. And they also give you step-by-step instructions. This is a clock that hangs on your wall that looks like a watch. And you can see there are step-by-step instructions on how to cut that out. And there's your patterns right there. Now, these magazines, like I said, come about 4 times a year, just excellent. They cater exclusively to scroll saws, and you're going to want to get those. You can either pick them up at a wood store or you can subscribe to them. Another source for patterns is books, and these are just general scroll saw pattern books, and there are tons of patterns in each book. And here's one even on how to make scroll saw boxes, and they are very, very useful. Another place that you can find patterns and pattern designers is my website. Now, you won't find patterns there, but you will find a link to pattern designers if you go to the links I like page on my website. Now, when you use these patterns, the way you use them is you make copies of them to use in your scroll saw work, and then you've got the original pattern left in case you want to make some more of that project. And everybody does that. So don't worry about that. You just go to your computer printer or your copy machine and make a pattern. If you do it at business, just don't get caught, you know, don't if you do it at work, because I don't want to be responsible for you getting fired or anything, okay? So let's move on to blades now and talk a little bit about blades. I have a little card here with 3 blades attached. I'm going to pick that up and I'm going to show you these and tell you some different things about them. But we're going to keep this brief because there are a multitude of different kinds of blades, different blade sets, different teeth sets, different manufacturers of blades, and I want to refer you for that to my website and click on the links I likes page and go to Mike's workshop. He's got an article on there on everything you need to know about scroll saw blades, and he'll even sell you some too if you want. But that's the best place to get all that information on scroll saw blades. Now, first of all, starting out, we have 2 types of blades that you'll be most involved with using. The first is a standard blade. Now, the standard blade has all the teeth running in one direction, and that allows the sawdust to be cleared better. It allows for a better cut on thicker wood, and you know, it's, the drawback on a standard blade, though, is that it leaves a burr on the backside piece of your work, and that is what scroll sawyers sometimes call a fuzzy, and you wind up having to sand that off after you're done with your project. Now, to correct that, we have a reverse tooth blade. Now, the reverse tooth blade has all the teeth pointing in one direction, so you get to the bottom of the blade, And then the last few teeth are pointing in the opposite direction. That shears that burr off so you don't have to sand that off. Now, another blade that you probably will not use much, and that I don't use because it's too hard for me to control, is the spiral blade. But a lot of people get excited when they see the spiral blade because it allows you to cut in any direction. With the standard and the reverse tooth blade, you're usually cutting in just one direction. You can't back it up and cut with the back side of the blade or side to side or anything like that. With the spiral blade, you can do that. You can cut in all different directions. And a lot of people like to use that kind of a blade for portrait work because there's a lot of things where you want to cut in and not have to back out and turn your wood and cut that in a different direction. These allow you to just move the wood in any direction you want. Very difficult to control though, which is why I don't use them very much. I've tried to get control of them and I just don't have the talent for the spiral type blades. Now, what kind of blade do you select for what kind of work you're doing? Well, blades come in about 9 different sizes. They start at size 2/0, or what we call 2/0 blades, and they go all the way up to number 12 blades, which you probably will not use. About the biggest you'll probably use in your scroll saw work is a 9. But they go from 2/0 to number 2, to number 3, to number 5, to number 7, and then number 9. What blade do you use for what work? Well, it depends on the project you're doing. And it depends on the thickness of wood that you're using. As we take a look at some of these woods, another thing it depends on is the hardness of the wood. This is a piece of ash. Now, ash is a very hard wood to make baseball bats out of it. So you're going to need at least a 7 blade to cut this 3/4 piece of ash. This is a piece of yellow heart, 1/2 inch. Again, very hard wood. You're going to want to use probably a number 5 blade at the smallest to cut this. This is cedar. Now, aromatic cedar is very soft wood, so you could get away with, this is 1/2 inch, probably even a number 2 blade on that. This is cherry. Now again, this is a hard wood, so you're probably going to want anything from a number 3 to a number 5 blade to cut that. This piece of wood, very thin, very soft. This is aspen. You can use a 2/0 blade on this, a number 2 blade, anything that's very thin. This is soft maple, 1/2 inch soft maple, and it cuts very easily as well. So, you know, it just depends on the thickness of the wood, the hardness of the wood. This is poplar. You'll want to use a number 5, number 7 on this, particularly if you're cutting things like puzzles. Now, another thing that determines your work is the intricacy of the pattern you're cutting. If there's a lot of real fine cuts in your pattern, a lot of small tiny spaces where you have to turn quickly, a lot of fine line detail, you're going to want to use a thinner blade, a number 2 blade or a number 2/0 blade, but you're not going to want to go much higher than that. You may get away with a number 3 blade. That's what I use mostly for 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch type wood. But the smaller the blade, the better if the work is really, really intricate. So you see some of the things that go in to choosing a scroll saw blade for your work. Again, I can't emphasize enough though to check Mike's Workshop through my website. Go to the Links I Like page, click on Mike's Workshop, and you'll find out everything you need to know about scroll saw blades and their uses. So that's all the time we have for this video today. Thank you very much for joining me. Again, check out my website, terryscrollshop.com, and check the links page. There's also information on scroll sawing on there, plus you'll find pictures of my work and order forms if you'd like to order anything. Also, visit me on Facebook, and remember, when you do, spell shop the old-fashioned way, S-H-O-P-P-E. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time in Terry's Scroll Shop.